The Emerald Tablet, Chapter 31. Benjamin Loses the Keys. Benjamin stared in disbelief at the empty bench in front of him. He looked left, he looked right, he looked up. Benjamin even got down on all fours and looked under the bench. The nautical was nowhere. The hallway was totally empty, in fact. Benjamin's heart began to race as he thought of the precious keys the nautical had stored inside his mind. Had Jack decided to take the keys? Had someone come and kidnapped him? Every thought possible went through his head. He tried communicating with Jack through telepathy, but got no reply. Benjamin started pacing in the hallway, not sure what to do. Jack had to be around somewhere, or else maybe he'd had to go run an errand or something. That was it. There's just no way Jack would have left without an excellent reason. Benjamin walked all the way to the end of the hallway. Just as he walked back to the bench, the door to room 54 opened and Ryan stepped out. He stopped when he saw Benjamin. "Man, what are you doing?" Ryan asked. "Isn't your exam over?" Ryan followed Benjamin's gaze down the empty hallway. "Are you waiting for someone or something?" No," Benjamin replied. "I'm just resting for a minute." "Was the exam a little too hard for you?" Ryan asked. "Oh, no, it was actually pretty easy," Benjamin replied. Even with Jack missing, he didn't want to give Ryan an inch. "Well, you probably had an easy grader," Ryan said. "I've heard that some of the graders are much harder than others." "I had a really tough grader, but I still think I did great," Ryan boasted. "Yeah, I'm sure you did," Benjamin said. "Well, good then. You won't be too upset then when I skip a few years of telekinesis and you're only in year 2 of it. I'm sure your friends Gary and Heidi will probably have to repeat first year," Ryan said, and walked off. Benjamin didn't even bother responding. All he could think about were the missing nautical and the missing keys. Where could Jack be? Benjamin thought about it a while longer, but then figured he might as well go down and meet the others for dinner. Jack would be sure to turn up in a few minutes, and he'd know to find Benjamin in the dining hall. Benjamin took his time walking to the dining hall, hoping that Jack would suddenly appear and explain where he'd been. By the time he got there, a half hour had passed since the end of his exam, and Jack was still missing. Sweat broke out on Benjamin's forehead, but he did his best to keep his worrying under control. Apparently, though, the Alliance Bond had other ideas, betraying him almost immediately. "Hey, what's wrong with you?" Andy asked, after one look at Benjamin. "Oh, nothing," Benjamin said. "No, really," Andy persisted. "I can tell something's bothering you." Just then Heidi walked in with Ivor, and they joined the three boys. Heidi stopped before even sitting down and looked directly at Benjamin. "No way," she said. "You lost them?" "I didn't lose them," Benjamin said. "Jack has them." "But where's Jack?" she asked. "You don't know?" He glared at her. "Of course I can read your mind," Heidi said. "And no, I'm not eavesdropping. I mean, it's exploding with anxiety right now." "You really don't know where the keys are?" Ivor asked. "How could you be so careless?" "Careless?" Benjamin said. "I wasn't being careless. If anything, I was being very uncareless. I mean careful." "So why don't you have the keys then?" Ivor asked. "Well, Jack was supposed to be waiting for me at the end of the exam. He's waited after everyone so far, but when I got out of telekinesis, I couldn't find him anywhere," Benjamin said. "I'm sure he just had to go somewhere for a minute or something." "Your exam was over half hour ago, wasn't it?" Ivor asked. "So tell me, where is Jack now?" "I don't know," Benjamin admitted, "but I'm sure he'll turn up." Benjamin tried not to think too much about the missing keys during dinner. He had faith that the little nautical would reappear as soon as he could. Benjamin half-heartedly asked about the afternoon's visit to see Morpheus Midas. Gary was on the edge of his seat as he told Benjamin the Ammonite chess set had been sold. Morpheus didn't even know who was buying it, Gary said. The guy who came into the store was just an independent buyer, hired by the person making the purchase. "Well, it must have been someone with a lot of money," Heidi said. "That thing wasn't cheap. You know, I wonder if the guy from the Bangkok Chess Open bought it." "You know," Gary said. "You know, the Telligent who beat everyone?" Ivor turned to Gary. "Think about his face again," she commanded. "What?" "The Telligent from the chess tournament," Ivor said. I could kind of see it in your mind. Think about his face again." Gary complied, and Benjamin immediately received an image of a man with a full beard and dark hair. It was the man he'd seen in the hallway a couple of days before. "That's the guy I saw in Fortune City," Ivor replied. "I noticed him watching me just before I was called in to see the High Oracle." "The Telligent from the chess tournament was in Fortune City?" Gary asked. "Right," Ivor replied. "And I saw him on Wednesday before one of my exams," Benjamin added. "He walked away once I noticed him." "So you're telling me there's some Telligent who just happens to be in Bangkok the same time we are, and then just happens to be in Fortune City the same time Ivor is," Gary said, "and that he's following Benjamin around the school?" "It doesn't stop there," Andy said. "I saw that same guy when we were leaving the map library the other night. You know, the night you and Heidi went on your date to Xanadu." Benjamin reached out to hit Andy, but Andy moved out of the way. "Do you think he could have been the one who trashed our room?" Gary asked. "Do you think he's the guardian Ivor was warned about?" "I'd say it has a high probability," Ivor replied. "Morpheus said he thought the guy was from Atlantis," Gary said. "Remember?" Andy nodded. "I think we should go back and talk to Morpheus again." When? Ivor asked. If you haven't noticed, we're running out of time this summer. Maybe tomorrow, Benjamin said. It could just all be a coincidence. Anyway, I'm not leaving the school until Jack gets back. He pushed back his chair and got up from the table. I'm going back to the room to take a nap. That way when Jack does show up, he'll know where to find me. Are you sure? Andy asked. We're going to go to the main lecture hall for the holocam they're showing tonight. A movie might take your mind off the keys. No, I'm tired, Benjamin said. You guys have fun. Well, I'm going to the library to do some more research, Gary said. Really? Andy asked. You aren't going to the holocam either? Great idea, Gary, Ivor said. I think I'll join you. You're going to the library? Andy's mouth dropped open with disbelief even as he asked it. Count me in also, Heidi added. But don't let that stop you from going, Andy, Ivor said. Andy looked torn for only a moment. I won't then, he said. It's supposed to be a really popular one. They split off in 3 directions, Ivor, Heidi, and Gary to the library, Andy to the lecture hall, and Benjamin back to the dormitories. When Benjamin lay down in his bed at 7 o'clock, he fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. After 5 hours, his eyes popped open. Whoa! He exclaimed. Jack was directly in front of his face, grinning. Bet you thought I wasn't coming back, didn't you? Jack asked. Well, now that you mention it, I was starting to worry, Benjamin replied. You didn't look too worried here sleeping, Jack said. Let's go out and talk. Benjamin got up quietly, trying not to wake Andy and Gary, both of whom were snoring. He crept out of the dorm room, closing the door behind them. Okay, Jack, do you want to tell me where you've been? Benjamin asked. I mean, you were supposed to be waiting for me on the bench, right? Or did I get confused? Was it supposed to be 7 hours later in the dorms? Jack sat on the table in the room. No, of course you're right. But I was waiting there for a long time, and then something happened, and I had to get out of there fast. What do you mean something happened? Benjamin asked. What could have happened? I mean, someone was coming. Someone was trying to get to the keys, Jack said. Who? Benjamin asked. I don't know, Jack answered. All I know is that it was someone evil. Someone was trying to get to the keys and take them, and I wasn't going to hang around waiting to find out who it was, Jack said, a definite defensive note creeping into his voice. No, I don't blame you, Benjamin said. You did the right thing. In fact, we realized tonight that some guy has been following us around. Really? Jack asked. Yeah, really. The guy who played in the Bangkok Chess Open? It's the same guy we saw in the hallway the other day. Benjamin filled Jack in on what they'd put together. I thought he kidnapped you or something. Well, that would be pretty hard since I'm not a kid, Jack joked, but that wasn't the same presence I picked up on tonight. It wasn't? Benjamin asked. Who else could it be? I don't know, Jack said. Just someone I don't remember running across before. So why did it take you so long to come back? Benjamin asked. I waited in one of my secret hiding spots until I couldn't sense the evil presence any more, Jack answered. Your secret hiding spots? Benjamin asked. Where are they? Well, if I told you, they wouldn't be secret any more now, would they? Jack replied. Anyway, here you go. The 2 keys of Shambhala appeared on the table beside Jack. Benjamin quickly picked them up and looked at them, inspecting them. Yeah, they're the same stones, Jack said. They never left my mind. Thanks for holding on to them, Benjamin said, again. It was no problem, but I better go, Jack said. I'm so tired I plan to sleep all day tomorrow, or today, that is. Yeah, okay, Benjamin said, but don't sleep too long. We leave on Sunday, you know. I know, Jack said. Are you able to visit other places on Earth? You know, like Virginia? Benjamin asked. I'll take that as an invitation, Jack replied, then vanished from the room. Benjamin stared at the spot where the nautical had been, then again looked at the keys in his hands. He turned them over and over, feeling their smoothness. Where could the 3rd key be? They'd researched the teleportation records again, but found nothing. Could the records be wrong? Could the 3rd key have been teleported out of Shambhala, but no flash been recorded? Benjamin didn't think so. Why show the teleportation of the 2nd key, but not the 3rd? How else could the key have been taken from the city? Could it have been tunneled out from below? No, the geodyne should have showed that kind of activity. Maybe someone had teleported the key into their mind and then walked out of the city. Even that should have registered some kind of visible activity. As Benjamin thought, he realized that he was no longer tired, his mind too busy. Okay, let's think through this logically, he said to himself. The key was not teleported out of Shambhala. The key was not walked out of Shambhala. The key was not tunneled out of Shambhala, so where could the key be? And then a light went on in Benjamin's head. How about in Shambhala? He said. Of course. The 3rd key of Shambhala was never taken from Shambhala. It's still there. It's being hidden there. How could I not have realized that? It's so obvious. As the realization dawned on Benjamin, so did the fact that he had no way of getting there. It may as well be on the moon, he said. In fact, Benjamin thought if it was on the moon, he could at least have tried using one of the special exhibit teleporters in the Natural History Museum to get there. But Shambhala, aside from being the landing spot of the meteorite, he had no idea how to get there. Everything in the library they'd read about the hidden city suggested it may even be deep below ground. He ran back into the dorm room and commanded the light to turn on. "Wake up, you guys," he called. "The third key's in Shambhala. Heidi, Ivor, wake up. I know where the third key is," he thought. "What are you talking about?" Heidi asked. "The third key. You guys have to come here quick," he replied. "Are you kidding, Benjamin?" Ivor asked. "Yeah, are you kidding, Benjamin?" Andy said, rolling out of bed. "They can't come here in the middle of the night." "Yeah, that is so completely against the rules," Gary added. "I don't care about the rules," Benjamin said. "Use a teleporter and get here now." Ivor and Heidi didn't waste any time. The urgency in Benjamin's request brought them in less than 2 minutes, still in their pajamas. "Those are cute," Andy said, nodding his head toward Ivor's pink fluffy slippers. "I don't want to hear another word about it," she replied. "It's 1 in the morning. Now tell me, what are we doing here in the middle of the night?" "Yeah, but tell us quietly," Heidi added, nodding her head to the room next door. "I don't want Ryan and Jonathan waking up." "I know where the third key of Shambhala is," Benjamin replied. "We need a plan for how we're going to get it." "Tonight?" Andy asked. "Look," Benjamin replied, "this is our last day in Lemuria. If we don't find it today, we may have to wait a whole year before we get another chance. So yes, tonight." "So where is it?" Ivor asked. "It's in Shambhala," Benjamin replied. "It never left the place. That's why we never saw it leave. Remember the poem we read? Shambhala is always near. Though hidden beneath our sphere, the keys will there again appear, and all the world will quake in fear." "The keys were intended to be reunited in Shambhala," he finished. "Of course," Ivor replied. "What better place to hide the third key than not to hide it at all?" "But Shambhala?" Gary said. "How in the world are we going to get there?" "Maybe the geodyne will have some idea." Benjamin quickly pulled out his geodyne. "Show me Shambhala," he commanded it. It lit up, and the spot in northern Tibet began to glow red. There it was, Shambhala. He could see the location clearly on the geodyne. Shambhala. There was no doubt about the location. Shambhala. He closed his eyes. The image of the glowing geodyne was firm in his mind. Reopening his eyes, the last thing he remembered seeing were his friends' faces, quickly changing from sleepy to concern. And then suddenly Benjamin felt as if he were being pulled from his chair toward the glowing spot on the geodyne.